So last time we got the Hawk 75A built and into primer, which is now dry. I'm going to try and use a later war scheme for this plane. So I need to get yellow on the fuselage band, the wingtips, and the leading edge of the engine cowl. Once that yellow is dry, I did some masking with Tamiya tape and blue tack. Then it was time to color the belly with some RLM 84, which is a light blue-gray that the Germans used on the underside camouflage, early war stuff. The instructions called for a light gray, but that didn't look right to me. So I like this German color, and these are repurposed Norwegian planes that the Germans originally painted. They should have some German colors on them. I wanted to get the tape off where I could, because sometimes the longer the masking is on, the higher the odds of pulling the paint from the model surface, and yellows and whites seem to be particularly bad at this. After the RLM 84 dried completely, I came back and masked off the complete belly of the airplane. And you can also see that I brought the blue-gray color up onto the side of the rear of the fuselage of the airplane. One of the things I noticed when I was researching late war Finnish airplane schemes, sometimes they would paint a large blue number on the tail, outlined in white. And the number corresponds to the last number in the plane's identification number. So in this case, it would be the number 2. I cut some stencils and made masks for the blue and the white outline, and having come back and painted the entire tail section white first, and letting that dry, I then put the blue number over that with the masking. Finally, once that was completely dry, I had also cut a slightly larger version of the number and tried to mask that off onto the blue so I would have the white outline when I got done. Later on, we will see this not go as well as I had planned. So the late war colors that I was given were olive and black. I generally don't paint black on models in large patches because it just looks too toy-like. So instead of black, I decided I would use a dark slate gray, which was called out in Vallejo's paint schemes as a Finnish airplane color, or camouflage color. I also took the German olive, I forget the RLL number, and I lightened that up with a little sky gray. It just kind of toned the intense olive color down a little bit. After painting everything completely olive, I masked off with blue tack and came back with that dark slate gray color, which I thought, like I said, would be a nice dark gray and be a good substitute for the black. Turns out it looks more like the green that I was after for the base color, the olive color. And here you can also see that the blue tail numbers just didn't work out. I couldn't get the masks to precisely line up with the blue. The blue looks good, but the white did not look good. I just figured, you know what? I'm just going to restart. I don't like the green. I don't like the blue. I don't like the white. I don't like the dark slate gray representing black. So let's just start all over. And I can tell you at this point, because I wanted a quick build, I almost went back to the original early war schemes and just completely painted the top in that in that green color, that dark slate green color, and called it good. Anyway, it was time for a restart. First part in the process was to spray the tail number all over with that olive green. I totally gave up on the idea of putting the tail number on there. I know I wanted to use that dark slate gray for the green, and I figured out what color I wanted to use for the black. I looked at several. I looked at a Panzer gray, I looked at a dark green black, and I looked at a combination of Panzer grays and blacks to see if I could get it a little richer. But what I eventually settled on was a Russian dark gray labeled as ATM-12. Once those colors were settled, I came back and retaped the fuselage band, the yellow fuselage band, the front yellow cowling, and the gray-blue that comes up from the belly of the plane back towards the tail section, so that I didn't have to worry about hitting with any of the darker green colors. Pattern, I painted freehand with my airbrush, and what I did is I used the previous colors as my painting guide. And I think it came out better than expected. I had to cover the olive green with the dark slate green, and then where the dark slate green was, I colored in that Russian dark gray. Oh, an overall gloss varnish for the few decals provided. It seems the Finns weren't really that obsessive about markings and stenciling. I think it was a matter of getting stuff into the fight as quickly as possible. Weathering was simply a matter of powdered pastels in gray, brown, and black to simulate dirt, grime, oil leaks, exhaust staining, gunpowder staining, and just generally trying to tone down the darkness of the colors to kind of make them look like they're a little sun faded. Now it's time to build a diorama base. After mapping out where I generally wanted mud and grass to be on the diorama, I started cutting down bamboo skewers to make scale logs. These would be used to keep the heavy planes from bogging down in the mud from late autumn rains, snows, and thaws. So after I cut these to length, the bamboo, I shaved the bottoms flat. All the bamboo was then given time to soak in inks of brown, white, and black, with a little extra brown dribbled over the top of them to give them more of a felled tree look than a bright yellow colored barbecue skewer. And now we're ready to build this simple base. Starting with Vallejo texture paste European mud, I simply pushed the logs into the mud and filled the gaps with extra paste to make it look like they were pushed into the ground, not simply sitting on top of it. And once that was dry, I added Vallejo's texture paste European dirt color to fill in the bare spots. The rest was simply to add some Woodland Scenics burnt grass tufts, not the static grass, just their overall undercoat. It kind of gives that late season grass color where it's starting to die off and some of it's hanging on. And I also cut down some yellow tall grass that I have from Woodland Scenics. It's too tall in this scale. It works really good on like 1/35th or even cut in half for like tall weeds and like model railroading. But anyhow, that was added just to break up a little bit of the flatness of the base. Lastly, the base got a sprinkling of Woodland Scenics snow. I kept it light to look like dust, like a dusting, not a full-blown snowstorm. And once I had it where I liked it, everything got a quick spray of isopropyl alcohol and watered down PVA glue to lock it in place. And that needed an overnight to dry. So while all the base components were drying, I remembered that the kit did not come with a pilot, but I did have this 1/72nd scale box of Finnish ground crew. They're uncomplicated and got put together quickly and easily. Painting was just as quick with a light gray shirt and darker gray pants, unless the crew was in overalls, then it was all over dark gray, black boots, and then it's just flesh and hair color. With the crew painted and the landing gear and clear parts added to the kit, all that was left was to add everybody to the base. So here we have the Curtiss H-75A in Finnish Service complete. And until next time, happy modeling.